You want to be among those who are still standing. The principles of war are taught in military academies all over the world. In most ways, spiritual warfare is no different than physical warfare. Every soldier who expects not only to survive but win must understand and employ these principles in his own daily battles against the powers of this dark world and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. That's what this book is about, understanding the principles of war for the career soldier, the true status of every believer. Back to Vietnam. The buses that tired GI pointed us toward weren't exactly Gray Line tour coaches. They were brutish, olive-drab hulks. Their windows were covered with some kind of steel mesh to deflect any objects, such as grenades, for example, thrown in our direction. Our jet-lagged minds began to focus on the unmistakable indicators that we were in a war zone, a perimeter of multiple rows of barbed wire punctuated with sandbag bunkers and an occasional guard tower designated the secure area. Metal symbols marked off the minefields. Buildings were surrounded by waist-high walls of sandbags. And then it happened. Just as we shuffled off the buses, sirens went off as though on cue. People around us began moving toward the bunkers. Somewhat witless and wondering if this were just some kind of orientation drill, we fell in with the trotting hordes, yellow-orange dust filling our noses. Once in the bunkers, we got the scoop from those who knew. We were about to taste our first incoming. It turned out to be a couple of 122mm rockets fired harmlessly into the compound by the VCNVA. The missiles didn't hit a target of any consequence and seemed more intended to disrupt and harass than do any actual damage. But if anyone had doubted that GI's initial greeting, no one did now. This really was a war zone. Do you believe? But wait just a minute. You really don't believe it, do you? You think all this battle talk is just some fired-up ex-soldier running off at the word processor. And that precisely illustrates the danger. The problem for many Christians is that they have no concept that they're actually living in a war zone. Like newbie GIs in a foggy, sleep-deprived daze, many Christians trudge half-numb through this life, oblivious to the perils around them. The war zone indicators are all there, but we act like it couldn't possibly be real. All too often, Christians become casualties, shot to pieces in a war they didn't take seriously. I'm reminded of the Garth Brooks song that says, "Can't help but think about the ones the world pulled down." Some of their names and faces flash across my mind even now. Men I studied with in seminary. Men I served with here at Good Shepherd Community Church. Good men who loved God. Just recently, one of the leaders in our church fell to adultery. Satan's artillery shot straight through his heart, and the shrapnel cut through the chest of a lot of others standing nearby. A wife, some wonderful children, several of us fellow pastors, a bunch of friends, and really the whole church family. Like so many others, he became battle-fatigued and dropped his guard. And the enemy picked him off. It's happened to way too many over the years. And I never seem to see these good people in formation anymore. They're too wounded to fight, too shamed to care. I suspect that in the night watches they lay in their own shadows, moaning deeply. The enemy knows how to slip past our perimeters, doesn't he? Somehow the dark side seems to know just where our buttons are and how to push them. It may be something as small as flying off the handle at some guy tailgating us, or as profound as falling off the marriage bed into the arms of another. But whether it's small arms or heavy artillery, it's all destructive. Just the other day I was driving home on Interstate 84 after 4 wonderful days of vacation. All of a sudden into my world of peace and comfort came a little red car. He must have been doing over 80. I was in the passing lane, just moving by the vehicle to my right. That little red bomb roared up to within what seemed to be a foot of my rear bumper and stayed there. It felt like he'd attached his radiator to my tailpipe as though we were engaged in some kind of mid-flight refueling exercise. He just parked on my rear bumper, riding my tail, and acting like the road was his. And in that instant, something in me wanted to do battle. Just that quickly, hot anger seared through my veins, and there was a war brewing. Somehow I managed to choke back the strong desire to retaliate. I fought off an almost overwhelming urge to do battle, and down the road a ways after my pulse had slowed a bit, I patted myself on the head for being a good boy. Oh, but it was close. As we drove down the road that day, my mind continued to wander through the atlas of spiritual warfare all around us. I thought about Kosovo and the hundreds of thousands of displaced, disoriented people. Children unable to speak and looking lost. Distraught mothers, their faces contorted by pain. Grown men unable to stop weeping. I thought of the Jewish Holocaust and Stalin's purges and the rape of Nanking and 2 world wars and Korea and, yes, Vietnam. And that's just 1 century. The injustice is staggering. And then there was my friend's little girl. Recently, a fellow pastor in another city faced a battle the likes of which I hope I never know.